Wheel of Time, Book 8, A Path of Daggers. I know you guys have been waiting for this video a while. I appreciate your patience. It's been 3 months, I think, since my last summary, so let's just go ahead and jump in to this summary. When we left off, the Seanchan had just invaded Ebou Dar, and we're going to pick up pretty much in a different area entirely, because this book starts off with a prologue where we see a bunch of Borderlander rulers agreeing to mass a giant army and move it south, away from protecting the Borderlands, which is actually very surprising, and we aren't actually told what exactly they're going to go do. It probably involves Rand, though. Everything does. Now we actually do cut back to the three main women we are following, Aviendha, Elaine, and Nynaeve. And Nynaeve right away starts warning the Aes Sedai emissary that they have been working with about the Black Aja and the fact that Moghedien has been around. They pretty much just dismiss her and her worries right away. Now they are still respecting her more, but it is clearly not 100% foolproof because they pretty much just think she's making it up or is completely mistaken. Now, they do continue to leave Ebou Dar without Mat because the Seanchan are invading and they are women who can channel and those things don't mix. We know Mat is looking for Oliver throughout the city. I still hate Oliver, but the women can't afford to take the time to go meet up with Mat or find Oliver. So yes, they are forced to leave him. Now, as they're leaving, Aviendha is leaving through a gateway with the rest of them. She's made the gateway, and as she's looking back through it, she sees Moradin on the other side. This causes her to need to unravel the gateway because she doesn't want Moradin to be able to follow them, and you can reopen the gateway to pretty much follow to the same location. A few of the Aes Sedai see her doing this and pretty much freak out, saying you should never unravel a weave like this. It's incredibly dangerous. Aviendha kind of shrugs it off and goes, hey, the Aiel do it all the time, and you're wrong. This is pretty much just easy to do, and I'm going to do what I want and what I need to do. The three women and their party of kin and Aes Sedai now arrive at the kin retreat, where pretty much hundreds of these women who have fled the tower or gotten away in some way or other stay, and immediately there's this big panic because the people at the farm see Aes Sedai coming. Luckily, their leaders are able to calm them down and explain that they're going to probably be welcomed back into the tower in some way, and everyone pretty much chills out. The three women we've been following, Aviendha, Elaine, and Nynaeve, and the most strong channelers from the kin and Aes Sedai, start using the Bowl of the Winds to try to fix the climate. They solve climate change with a bowl. I wish it was that easy. But after they do this, the climate that has been so unbelievably hot for the last book or two is now put back to the way it should be, and the Dark One's not going to win just by starving out and causing a never-ending summer on people. Doing this does exhaust pretty much everyone involved, but they don't have any time to take a break because the Seanchan arrive at the homestead, the retreat, and start attacking immediately. And once again, they have to run away. Now, Elaine makes the gateway, everyone goes through, and once they're through, Elaine realizes she can't leave this weave, because if she does, the Seanchan will learn how to use gateways, and she doesn't want them to have this incredibly powerful tool. So she begins to unravel the gateway. Now, Aviendha was experienced at this. Elaine is not, and here we learn why the Aes Sedai warned that it's a dangerous thing, because Elaine loses her grip on the unweaving and causes an explosion that we know kills a whole lot of the Seanchan on the other side, but luckily kills no one on their side. Luck, plot armor, etc. Which it's pretty... Elaine does screw up a whole lot, and this may or may not be one of her screw-ups. It's kind of presented as maybe she kind of did it on purpose, but we're not really sure, or at least I don't remember being sure about it. But she does really kind of stop screwing up after here, and Elaine starts becoming a much more interesting character from this point on in the series, but we'll get into that in later books more. We actually learn a couple more interesting pieces of information here. It turns out that the kin live longer than even Aes Sedai do, and it's quickly surmised it's because they don't have to take the 3 oaths, and somehow the 3 oaths actually shorten Aes Sedai's lifespan, and is killing them in a way. So from here, we pretty much can go ahead. The idea is proposed, and it's going to eventually take place way, way, way down the road, that the kin will kind of end up being a retirement program for Aes Sedai. Basically, you reach a certain age, you'll have the 3 oaths removed from you, and you get to go join the kin. This idea is proposed pretty quickly, and it, again, just keeps going and going and becomes a thing. Now, from here, we're going to cut to Perrin. Perrin is still moving on to meet up with the Prophet, the man who's been preaching for Rand, who we know is bat crazy. But on the way there, he runs into Morghese, the Queen of Andor and Elaine's mother, and her party, who are fleeing the White Cloaks. They escaped because the White Cloak fortress was attacked by Shan-Chan and they got out. They don't know who they are, so they scoop up this random party, and Faile actually takes them in as her personal servants. So now Faile's personal servants is the former Queen of Andor without her really knowing. So that's kind of an interesting turn of events there. Elias actually also joins up with their group. So now Elias Matura is back with Perrin, and he pretty much tells him that, hey, you're married to a Saldaean, you need to yell at her more, because she'll like it. And I would call this a really weird sexist thing to have in the book, but I know people like this, and it's a cultural thing, so I can't really tell people to have their culture be different. So that's how Saldaeans show love, is by screaming at each other and stuff like that. Interesting. So that's actually why we figure out why Faile has been so jealous when Perrin will yell at Elaine, but not yell at her, because the way she was brought up, you only yell people that you really care about and you're passionate about. So, they're Italian. While all this is happening, Elaine has been meeting up with the former queen of Gildan, and she actually brings her back to Perrin. And this woman pretty much gives up her title and lands to Perrin right away. And it's a mixture of the fact that Perrin kind of demonstrates himself to be such a nice, generous leader. In addition to that, it's also just because he's Tal'Viran and people pretty much just do stuff for him all the time because of how he bends reality around himself. Perrin, though, because of who he is, does not like this. And he pretty much turns her down and says, look, you keep ruling your lands as a loyal vassal to me. How about that? Because I don't like responsibility or doing things. And the queen pretty much agrees to that. So now Perrin technically is the king or lord of this country, but he's having the former ruler just keep her job. I kind of got the impression during this scene that she just really did not want to keep doing her job, and Perrin doing this kind of went against what she really wanted, but he's Perrin, and so people pretty much agree to do as he says. At this point, Perrin meets with the Prophet, and the Prophet's insanity from what we've seen before to now is even greater. He is straight up a madman, like worse than Rand at his worst kind of madman. And Perrin tells him, look, you're coming with me, you're going to meet with Rand, and this is happening right now. And the Prophet kind of just agrees and is like, okay, cool, I'll come with you, let's go. And it's pretty intense, but that actually is just pretty much how the meeting goes. There's a lot of hostility between the two, and the Prophet doesn't like Perrin. It's very clear right away. But hey, what are you going to do? You have to bring him back to Rand. Now, during this meeting, Faile is captured by the Shido, and Elaine escapes because they're off doing their own thing, and they're attacked by the Shido, that basically traitorous clan of the Aiel. Now, this pretty much, of course, throws off Perrin's plans. He can't just take the Prophet back to Rand while his wife is still hostage. So instead, he needs to go get her back, and the Prophet kind of tags along. So there's this madman with his army of crazy fanatical followers just kind of tagging along while Perrin now needs to go to war, essentially, with the Shido. It's really hard in my head to keep Shido and Shan-Chan separate, so if I screw that up, I'm sorry. I also think at some point I might have screwed up Perrin and Rand. I don't know. If I did, I'll cut this part out, and if I didn't, I'll leave it in. Now, from here, we're going to cut to the White Tower, and we learn that things have gone from bad to worse. The Ajas are not talking to each other at all. The second in command is, as we know, a member of the Black Aja, and Elida is essentially now being blackmailed into doing what the Black Aja wants. So it's not good, and things are going very badly. But from here, we cut to the Black Tower, where Logain, the essential de facto second in command of the Black Tower, intercepts one of Elida's emissaries that was sent to the Black Tower to try to destroy it, I think. I don't really know. It's never made clear exactly what their mission was. I think just to gentle everybody. And he intercepts them, and they're able to overpower them, and Logain actually bonds one of the Aes Sedai to kind of be his warder. But because they both channel, their connection's stronger, and they can essentially have a loose idea of each other's thoughts and emotions. It's really an intense bond. It's kind of like having a person in your head, as opposed to just kind of like a GPS tracker that the warders typically have. Now, we get a very important line here. Logain is told by one of his followers that Taim will not be happy about this, and Logain says, well, Taim wants me dead anyway, so I don't care. And this hints and foreshadows the future of the Black Tower, because we know there's tension, but now we know just how bad it is. There is borderline civil war already happening at the Black Tower, and it's only been around for a very short period amount of time. So now we cut to the rebel Aes Sedai being led by Egwene, and we learn that things are also terrible for them. There's all kinds of infighting. Egwene is kind of fighting for power herself. And there's all kinds of these conflicts just in between. No one can really agree what to do. And there's even a few attacks and actual violence happening while we're following Egwene here. People die. So Egwene calls the hall to have a meeting. And she says, look, we're all disagreeing on what my powers and control should be. So how about this? I will have everything related to the war with the White Tower and the last battle. And you guys control everything else. And they agree to this. But it's realized right at the end of them agreeing to this that they just gave her full negotiation control when it comes to Rand, because everything involving the last battle certainly involves Rand. So they're very upset about that, but they already agreed to it, and they took the 3 oaths, so they can't really backpedal. From here, we're going to cut to Rand. Now, Rand learns of the insanity going on in the Black Tower. He learns of all this infighting, and he learns of people going mad. And his reaction is essentially, look, I can't baby the Black Tower. It needs to take care of itself. I don't want it to be tied to me indefinitely. I want it to be its own entity. So if it's going to survive, it needs to do it on its own 2 legs. Now, Rand takes Kalendor and wants to go just deal with the Shan-Chan. He wants to go to this battle and just essentially obliterate them. He's tired of their shit. He just wants them gone from his country. He says, hey, I can kind of probably just take Ebou Dar at the same time. Let's go do this. So he shows up, and he's ambushed by a bunch of Illianers, and he gets really badly injured, and there's this weird scene where these 2 nobles just kind of discuss killing him, but end up not doing it, and then Rand gets saved. I think it was a scene that's meant to show that there is still a lot of insecurity around those who follow Rand, about those against Rand. They're not really sure what to do. Like, even his followers aren't sure if they're making the right call, and those against him certainly aren't sure if they're making the right call, because he's the Dragon Reborn, and he's supposed to fight the Shadows. So if you're trying to keep your lands and fighting against him, aren't you technically fighting for the Shadow? There's all kinds of conflict going on in this, and it's an interesting balance. But from here, after Rand recovers from this incident, he takes Kalendor and he just unleashes it on the Shan-Chan. Now, this is the first time Rand has really used this weapon to its full capability as someone who actually knows what he's doing channeling, and it does not go well. He completely loses control, and he actually goes completely insane while he uses it. And we find out this is a flaw within Kalendor. If a man uses it without some female channelers to help him and actually control what the weaves are, it will become uncontrollable and make him go insane. So Rand now kind of loses his mind and actually does an equal amount of damage to his own army that he does to the Shan-Chan. So both armies are so badly injured and destroyed, they both have to retreat because they're just kind of wrecked from the former forces they were. Like, if you're in charge of an army and your enemy's army is completely wiped, but yours also is, you can't really rally enough to go attack and finish them off, especially if, like, most of your command structure is completely obliterated. And that's the impression that we get, is that both armies have just been horribly ruined to the point where they can't even mount an offense or defense. So, kind of in shame, Rand then heads back. It was actually Bashir, Faile's father, who's been on Rand's side this entire time, who tackled Rand while he was doing this, and eventually told him to stop. Like, oh my god, like what you're doing to our own army. And Rand is just feels so much shame. So he flees back to Cairhien. I have trouble with Cairhien. There we go. I have trouble with saying Cairhien. But he flees back to Cairhien. When he gets back to Cairhien, he immediately goes to see Min because he wants to talk talk to her and discuss what happened. And while he's in there, some maidens of the spear, his bodyguards, actually come in and beat the hell out of him. And their reason for doing it is he went off to battle and he left his bodyguards behind. And their honor is seriously hurt by this. And they say if he does it again, there will be whips and belts involved in the beating, and then it'll continue to escalate, because they're saying essentially you're dishonoring our entire people by leaving us behind like this, and in addition to that, you're essentially saying we don't have the right to fight with you or for you. So obviously the beating's kind of justified, and Rand kind of takes it in stride and even kind of admits, yeah, I deserved that. So Rand continues to have just kind of things going on for him, and down the road he's in the throne room just kind of discussing everything that's been going on politically around him. There's some important information here, but I'm not going to get into it. But as he's leaving the throne room, it essentially explodes, and we quickly realize 3 Ashaman were trying to kill Rand. And Rand turns around and is forced to kill all 3 of them in a pretty intense standoff. And this, again, is setting up the future of the Black Tower here. Now, Rand left one of his Ashaman that was still loyal to him to guard Min. And after he kills these 3 Ashaman, he comes back. And the Ashaman that he left to protect Min has gone insane and is trying to construct a wall of bricks that he's pulling out of the fortress around him to surround Min to protect her. And he just keeps kind of having these insane ramblings and just losing his mind. And Rand is also forced to kill him. I really like this scene, and I like that the book ends here, because we see Rand kill these 3 men in self-defense, and then he comes down and pretty much just as easily, with no hesitation, also kills this man who's clearly just lost his mind. And he could have gentled him, or he could have tried other things, but instead he just went for the simplest, fastest solution, and arguably the most humane one. And I think this kind of, again, signifies a transition from Rand, for in the last book we saw him willing to accept power when it's given to him. And I think now, it's not that he's accepting responsibility, it's more that he's accepting his role as a decision maker and someone who just needs to set the path and go down it without questioning. And what he's doing is he's demonstrating that if someone's going against me, whether it's just in my way or actively trying to fight me, I'm going to end it, because I have a bigger battle to fight, and this is just what I have to do. And the book actually ends with him telling Min, we're leaving here, and just get your things, we're out. And that's where Path of Daggers ends. It's a pretty dramatic ending, and once again, it's not some big plot wrap up. It's more just a character signifier. It's telling us what's going to be the future tone even of the entire series. Because if you remember all the way back in book 1, this was a way more lighthearted kind of just, oh, we're off on the adventure, and now we're getting to the point where our main character is having to murder his friends because they're going insane. So that is Path of Daggers. Again, this one is kind of less well-researched, but I've just been so busy. I don't have time to do 4 hours of research, so I did about 2. And I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought, what I got wrong. I know I'm not perfect, and I made a few mistakes. And the next couple books, I actually have finished about 3 books since I put out a review, so I'm going to do The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson, the newest book in the Bobaverse series, which... that series is so cool, and I'm actually starting Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which has been awesome so far. So that's my review and summary of Path of Daggers, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day, and as always, peace.